Thank you, Bryce. And I just want to congratulate Bryce on a really excellent conference. I know I'm probably the one person that really truly understands what it takes to hold a meeting like this. So congratulations, Bryce, and your staff's done a great job. So really excited to be here. I was a little nervous about speaking in front of you guys again. It's been a while. So last night I was downstairs talking to Mark and his wife, and Mark Rogers, Mark's in here. He said he was going to do the wave for me. And then his wife was like, "Don't be nervous, just imagine him in his underwear." And I said, "No, I do not want to do that." So you look nice in the flannel shirt, Mark. All right, so today we're really going to talk about fluid milk, what it looks like here as far as trends here in the Southeast, and then really what does it look like on the national level, and really what the challenges and opportunities are for fluid milk. Fluid milk is king here in the Southeast, right? So that's really important that we understand what we're doing here with fluid milk, and then discuss some of our programs and how we're working to defend our market here in the Southeast, what we are investing in, and how we are leveraging our regional strengths to really maintain our market here and keep milk relevant. So let's talk about our market landscape. For the past 7 decades, Americans are drinking less milk, right? So I think I'm not that old, 70 yet, but you guys probably remember not too long ago that, milk was king for the breakfast, really. People are pouring bowls of milk to eat cereal. Cereal sales are down, and we've really seen a shift of people wanting to eat breakfast on the go, by buying those, going through the drive-thru, buying those coffee drinks. Really saw a decrease from those 2010s to 2023. And I think a lot of that is the plant alternative beverages and the marketing that they used really to grab those consumers from us. So yeah, we lost about a quarter of Americans were drinking a quarter less milk. But if you go all the way back to 1975, they're drinking about half as much milk as we were back then. So when you take a look at the trends and the sales for the entire country, you guys all know the story, you live it. Milk sales are down. People are drinking less milk. But in the Southeast, the trend is actually slower than most parts of the country, especially when you look at the Northeast and Midwest. But there's a lot of reasons for this. But, last year, or 2024, we actually saw a positive for the first time in decades. And we were hoping that was going to be the trend and we start to see it turn around there, but we've kind of leveled back off and we've remained flat here in the Southeast. And there's a lot of reasons for this, and we're going to talk about that in just a moment. But when you take a look at the sales data for the Southeast, it really tells you what's going on here. This is for the last part of last year, the last 4 weeks, ending in November. So milk sales were flat, down 0.1% versus a year ago. Of course, traditional white HTST milk was down 0.8%. We're seeing a lot of growth in the value-added category at 3.7%. So when you look into the value-added category, what's driving the growth there? And that really is those functional beverages that Paul Zeminski and Barbara Brown were talking about on Monday. Value-added, lactose-free, just high-protein, high-filtration products. And that is what the consumer is really asking for right now. And then, let's see, the biggest growth, of course, is lactose-free at 5.6% there. So the problem with that is we don't make those products here in the Southeast, right? We don't have processing for that. So that's a huge concern for us. And, it's just a really competitive market for milk. And when I was, growing up in the 80s, late 70s, we went to the gas station. There was just not a lot of options there, right? We didn't have a lot of competition. Now when you go to Buc-ee's, they have it seems like 20 cases of beverages there to choose from. And right now, our main competitors are bottled water and energy drinks. And I enjoy energy drinks because I'm not much of a coffee drinker. So when I need that afternoon pick-me-up, I'll go reach for that. Carbonated soft drinks, they are still king right now, but their sales are dropping year over year around 1.8 to 2%. So I think in a few years, we're really going to see maybe a merger with carbonated soft drinks and energy drinks, and they're going to overtake that #1 spot. And if you look here down at the end, I don't know how to work this thing, with these nutritional functional beverages, that's what Paul Zeminski was talking about on Monday. There's a lot of opportunity there for dairy, really tapping into that health and wellness category. All right, so when we talk about fluid milk, it's really not one trend that's driving what's happening here. And it's really a multifaceted story, and we have to understand where the consumer is consuming milk, why are they drinking milk, and how do they want that milk delivered? Is it in a latte? Are they going to the coffee shop? Is it at school? Are they reaching for that milk dispenser? And then, of course, is it for health benefits there? And that's really a space that we know that we have a lot of opportunity for. But it's really important that we work with our team to really understand what's driving the Southeast dairy consumer. And we know that we have a large Black American population, and they're really looking for dairy right now on the protein and health wellness aspect. They just don't want the discomfort of dairy. So we just have to really invest in consumer research and insight and understand what's going on here in the Southeast. So I thought the best way to describe right now for us, how do we look at fluid milk and understand what's going on in the industry, and it's really in the lens of tailwind and headwinds, right? And so we want to understand what are our opportunities here, and I thought I'd start with the good stuff this morning, and then we'll wrap it up with our headwinds. But yeah, we have to understand what's driving our consumers here, identify how we can mitigate risk as an organization and capitalize on what's growing here, and really just defend our market base. So understanding what those challenges and opportunities are. So right off the bat, I'm going to drive today to Tennessee for a board meeting tomorrow. And anytime I leave Athens, Georgia to drive anywhere in the Southeast, I've got to go through Atlanta, right? So when I drive to Tennessee, I really hate it because I have to go through Atlanta, and then I have to go to Chattanooga and then Nashville. And I've been stuck on the side of a mountain in between Nashville and Chattanooga recently for 2 hours. And I really, really, really hate it. But people are here. And the South is continuing to grow, right? And it's the fastest growing region in the country. If you combined our region, the Dairy Alliance region, with the entire Southeast and Southwest, we are huge. And we are growing. And really, what's great about the growth here is that we have families with children. In our part of the country, we are the largest area that has families with children. That's our core milk drinking group. So there's a lot of opportunity when we talk about population growth. And I think sometimes when we talk about how do we grow milk demand here, and they're like, well, it's growing because of population. Well, that's not. Yeah, I think it is a tailwind. It's just something to be very focused on, and how do we meet the needs of those that are coming here, because we don't want more lactose-free products to be brought into our region. Like, let's find opportunity here for us, our Southeast farmers in the region. So, okay, let me go back. Okay. So when we talk about population growth, again, South is 1.6 growth rate. We lead that in the country, and that is driven by migration here and people with more children. And really, it's opportunity to do what we do best at the Dairy Alliance and educate on the nutritional aspects of our product. So we have teamed up with DMI over the last couple of years and really focused on the first 1,000 days. And that is really just talking about prenatal care, the nutrition for our infants, and for early childhood development. So really focusing on opportunity there, building out recipes, dispelling myths on dairy, and talking about the health and wellness side of growth and development. I think what is great also to add is we have a very affordable product. There's a lot of value. You get a lot of value for what you're buying there. So I think as we move forward, we'll continue to talk about how inexpensive our product is and how you can really purchase a gallon of milk to really provide good, complete nutrition for your family. What's been really fun at the Dairy Alliance over the last few years is really working in the space of sports nutrition and also active lifestyles, and really harping in on that milk health and wellness aspect of our product. And that was really important, as you see at the DMI level, really starting to market dairy as food medicine. And USDA recently approved messaging that we can actually talk dairy in the lens of food medicine. So you're going to see more and more of that as we move forward, because consumers aren't really choosing protein only because they want to build muscle. They're really using it as a proactive health strategy now, and it's not just about nutrition. So that really sets us up in a really good spot for dairy. And milk really does begin with a really built-in protein edge there, and it's naturally occurring, and you're going to hear a lot of people talk about it as we move forward, especially with the current administration, that we want natural whole foods and not processed, and naturally that is what milk offers. So we're really excited about the opportunity to really move forward in that space. And through our Milk Sky Game NIL campaigns, we've really been able to focus in on performance as well. And so having the athletes there talk about hydration, recovery, protein, it's really set us up for a good opportunity to promote your product. And having student athletes really is an opportunity to capture those really good students there that are, they're good in the classroom, they're on the field, and of course, they have a huge following when you start working with groups in like the SEC or the ACC. The next thing is Southern food culture. And I'm from the South, and I like to eat, and I like all things butter, dairy, cream, milk, And there's a lot of opportunity here. And Southern food, the Southern food culture trend is extremely popular right now across restaurants across the nation, and we're going to see more and more people integrate whole foods, natural foods, and then really the creaminess, the richness of Southern food. So you're going to see a lot of that in the upcoming year at the Dairy Alliance, really building out indulgent recipes to kind of just encourage the population, the consumers, to add one more servings when they are cooking at home, and pour one more. And there's a story to tell about the Southern food trend, because a lot of us sit around the table and enjoy those meals with our families, and really build out opportunities to build an experience for the consumer, and show that in the South that we really do have those core values that build families. And in 2026, we're not just going to launch a campaign, we're really going to work to ignite a culture of movement for this experience. And we're going to work with Georgia-grown chefs, attend some different events like the Georgia Food and Wine Festival, and really just elevate dairy milk in that space. And of course, when we have more people, we have more retail here in the Southeast, and we also have more schools. So our retail infrastructure, of course, is growing, and we have a lot of large grocery stores, super centers that really dominate our large cities across the Southeast. And that's a huge opportunity for us, right? But we have to get out, and we have to do more retail promotion, and working with partners like DMI to really get into those stores, work with the processors, and enhance what they're doing there to sell more milk. And one thing that we've really worked hard on the last couple of years, and we see a lot of success, is working through e-commerce. And that is an opportunity for us really to buy the space and the marketing there online, watch the consumer go in, look at some products. A lot of them we're targeting those bottled water and energy drink pages on Instacart, have them see the ad when they are looking at those products, click on our ad, go to and purchase the milk, put it in their cart, and we know that we actually change that consumer's habit. And it's really, to me, that is the strongest program we have right now to show return on investment for our farmers. So we're going to continue to work in the e-commerce space. Instacart is a huge, it has a huge following, especially in our urban areas. And a lot of people they don't have access to transportation to go to the stores. That kind of answers that problem here in the Southeast. We have a lot of food deserts around Atlanta. There's a lot of areas they don't have access to grocery stores, and Instacart really does add the opportunity there. So if today, if you asked me, what's the one thing that we probably need to put more money into, or if we had to take away all of our programs, probably it would be Instacart, because we know that we are changing consumers' habits and we know they're purchasing your product. So that continues to be super important for us. We'll work with our partners at DMI and our retailers and processors to continue to grow that program. Another very important program for us, since I started my time in the dairy industry 25 years ago, we've always been the leader in schools here in the Southeast. And we have Will here today, and at the end of my program, or end of my talk, I'm going to let you guys ask him questions about school milk and the recent legislation that was passed. But we have really focused in on building a better school milk experience across the Southeast. And we have a huge team that's really going out and pushing different programs from Moo Brew. I mean, I have teenage girls that love, when they're adult girls now, that love to have that coffee drink every morning. Now we have an answer to that where you can go to school and use school milk and have your coffee drink there for free, which is better for parents. Working with our partners across the Southeast to provide milk dispensers for our schools. This year, Georgia milk producers really stepped up in offering additional funding for milk dispensers across Georgia. And we also have those partners in Virginia and Kentucky. So really excited, Tennessee, and really excited to have farmers see the value of those milk dispensers and want to support us and grow consumption across our schools. We're also working to build out better recipes for our school nutrition staff to meet the needs of changes when it comes to sugar and fat in our school meal lunch program. So, really working hard to make that school milk experience the best that it can be. If you are living on a rock and you don't know what happened last week, the president signed into law the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act. I mean, he's here, he's the milkman now, and it's really exciting to see the excitement there at USDA and to see our farmers finally get something to the finish line that it took several years to do. So excited that now our school staff can go in and actually talk about whole milk and the science behind it. Can't really talk about something if USDA is not going to pay for it or allow for it to be in school. So now they have the option to provide those whole milk and 2% options. We can talk about the nutrition behind it, and then we can work with staff really to build out those menus that meet the guidelines now with less fat and sugar, but also provide them with a better tasting product. So super excited about that, and that is definitely a tailwind for the industry. So when we're working on retail and schools, there's a lot of opportunity here. School milk is actually 14 to 21% of your sales here in the Southeast, and that is double what it is for the nation. So we have more schools, more opportunities in school milk, so that will always be a priority for our organization. And then what you're going to hear about me over the next year, talk about that's most important for us here in the Southeast is really finding good partners to invest in the work that we do. And we cannot be successful in the Southeast unless we continue to collaborate with other partners. And this is just a small example of the groups that we work with throughout the year. And we connecting schools, working in hospitals, and working with our doctors, and of course working with our farmers. It's just key, the collaboration that we have to continue to move the Southeast forward and protect our market. But I want to make it very clear to everyone in the room as we work with partners, and some of those are outside of the Southeast, that we'll continue to make decisions that uplift and support our farmers here in the Southeast. Fluid milk will remain the core of what we do at the Dairy Alliance. But we do have that thing that everybody wants, and it's people, right? They want access to our consumer base here. So we are open to working with investors, making sure that we make decisions that uplift our farmers and reflect the culture that we have here, but then really just take an opportunity to bring more dollars to the Southeast to do more, to promote your product here, in the region, but also dairy as a whole. So So let's just talk about some of the challenges we see here in fluid milk. And it's really hard to, when you talk about tailwinds and headwinds, it's really hard to pick which ones are the most important. But these are the ones that we feel that are really impacting our region here in the Southeast. And when I started at Georgia Milk Producers, we had close to 600 dairy farms in Georgia. So that was in February of 2000. I think it was like 595 dairy farms. And so now they're down to, is it 70? I don't know if Bryce is in here, but about 70 in the state. And so, you know, it's changed. The dynamics of the Southeast changed. Dynamics of Georgia has changed. And we've seen some really great dairy farmers really struggle over the years to, you know, just do something that they love. And we've lost some great families in the industry, but we are a fluid milk deficit area, and we really, our processors really depend on having that market here in the Southeast. So with that, losing those farms and losing that milk has really put some challenges for our processors. And then also our consumers, you know, are changing their preferences in the Southeast, and we're really seeing a lot of packaged milk come into the region. And when you take a look at it, that's that value-added milk, that lactose-free milk, the Fairlife, you know, and those other ultra-filter products are starting to move in. And we just don't make those products here in the Southeast. So about 1% every year we see the packaged milk volume shares increase. As far as, you know, that plays into what we have for processing and innovation here as well. And you guys know, a lot of you guys are part of co-ops that own these processing plants, but we just have an older infrastructure, and the milk deficit here has made it really hard for them to compete. They have to go out and buy milk to bring it into their plants, and that really just raises the cost of operation and risk. And value-added milk, again, it's replacing that HT/ST milk. So they're sourcing the packaged milk outside of our region, and it's cheaper to go and do that and then to invest in their plants. We recently met with a local processor, and we were just, what can we do to help you add a line for an ESL line at your plant? And they're landlocked; they can't really add anything. At this point, they're not willing to make the investment, you know, and it's hard. It's very challenging. They are doing what they can to keep that plant running, but that's the same story after story when we go and meet with different processing plants. So, and when you start talking about that with your processors, you realize real quick they don't want to make the jump, and then they expect the farmers, well, we need more production here. And then the farmer's like, well, I don't want to add more cows if there's nowhere to send my milk. So it's really like a chicken and egg situation. And until those things align, it's really going to be hard to grow processing here in the Southeast. And then, you know, if they're not going to put an ESL line in, there's not going to be much product innovation, right? We're not going to see those little fancy Newberry drinks made here until we see someone step up. And it's very expensive to build a plant. So, you know, a lot of that is shouldered on our farmers. And it's been a huge challenge for our organization over the last few years. So until that's resolved, we're really not going to see any changes locally or regionally for the dairy industry when it comes to fluid milk. And I had protein as a positive, of course, a tailwind, but it also is a headwind, because if you are in the health and wellness space, everything has protein, right? And we're going to see that continue to grow. And it is here to stay. Protein's super important. We have the GLP medications available now, and a lot of people cannot eat a meal, but they're looking to products like the Core Power to get the nutrition and the protein they need. So you're going to continue to see protein on everything. I think Reese's peanut butter cups are touting the 4 grams of protein that they have in their candy. You know, and I think that, you know, these plant-based milks have really used some of these marketing ploys to get people to come to their products, and they're continue to really harp on what they have as far as protein goes and really mimic what dairy has. And it's really unfortunate, because that's really cost us our market in the past. But I think dairy has a huge opportunity to really talk about it being a natural part of their product. And it's, we can really do a lot in that health and wellness space to really tout that it is naturally occurring in a complete protein. And the shelf space will continue to be crowded and competitive. Sports drinks, functional refreshers. We have juice now that has protein in it. My daughter, when she goes to 7 Brew, she has them add cream into her refresher, which I thought was really gross for a while, but now dirty sodas is this huge trend. So I don't know anything anymore, obviously, but we're just going to see more and more that everything has protein in it. And when you have food products, they just spray it on. They spray a protein on those chips and that pasta. It's not really in the food. So are you actually even really consuming good protein when you eat those products? And this just is a chart just showing the fitness beverage shelf and how much that has increased year over year as far as the market goes. But we are all competing for that post-workout moment. But, we are the king of recovery drinks, chocolate milk, when it comes to chocolate milk. We just have to continue to drive that message home. And I think, with the administration we have talking about, less processed foods, I think we still have a really good opportunity to stay at the top there when it comes to post-workout. And then another headwind, is definitely the changes that we have to the dietary guidelines and school meal programs. You're like, Farrah, why are you saying that? This is great. We're at the top of the inverted pyramid now. But we are really concerned about sugar levels in our flavored milk, and then, of course, the fat levels as well. And dairy foods, we haven't been encouraged as part of a school meal program for many years. And now we are moving into a space where it is a great opportunity for us to really capitalize on that. But we are going to have to work with our schools to make sure that they can meet the guidelines. So when he signed that legislation into law last week, they immediately released the updated guidelines for the school meal lunch program. And our team are diving into how is this going to fit into the schools and how are they going to make their menus. So the fat in the milk is exempted through those calculations, but the sugar is not. And so your low-fat chocolate milk right now is 70% of your sales across in the region for schools. So now we have this added sugar problem that we're going to have to really work with the school nutritionists to calculate for that and make sure that that they can continue to enjoy that product. We have Mary Ann Drake here from Southeast Dairy Research Center, and she maybe can answer some questions in just a moment. But she's doing a lot of work on formulating a chocolate milk that still tastes good, very sweet, but does not have the sugar in it, and that's super important. So when we work with partners like her, just know that we have seen this coming for a while and know that processors are committed to reducing sugar in the milk, and we'll continue to work on that. But we do have staff that are working with Smart Swaps program at the national level, and that's really reformulating recipes and menu opportunities in the schools to meet those standards. Just to wrap, for 2026, fluid milk again will remain at the center of what the Dairy Alliance does. And these are our programs that we're really going to take priority for 2026, staying in that milk and performance space, really capitalizing on the Southern culture heritage. Community access is going to be something we're looking at, really food banks. We have a food bank, Atlanta Food Bank in Atlanta area. It's huge. It's probably 5 football fields the size of the center that they've built there in Atlanta. There's a lot of opportunity, I think, at food banks that we really haven't capitalized on. So really exploring that this coming year to see what can we do to work with food banks to move milk across the Southeast. Continuing to work with our school milk programs, navigating consumer perceptions, really, marketing milk as natural protein, simple nutrition, and then of course, just innovation and seeing what we can do here in the Southeast to build processing. And then our next slide is really a recap on our programs, because I didn't really talk about the many programs that we work to do our initiatives throughout the year. So I wanted to share that with you. But before I begin that, we do have some staff here, and I want to recognize them. We have Debbie Beans here, our Chief Operating Officer, and Will McWhorter with our school program. You guys know who he is here in Georgia. We have Joanne Engelhard-Risco here, and our Chief Marketing Officer, Mackenzie Panhands, and Audrey's around here somewhere. So we had a huge showing here just this year, but we really wanted you guys to see the people that are working here for you in Georgia and have access to them, ask those questions. I have a few minutes to show this, okay.
At the Dairy Alliance, powerful partnerships are the foundation of a thriving Southeast dairy industry. Aligning with DMI's 2026 through 2028 Unified Plan, we will continue to work with and through partners to accomplish our shared outcomes. Shared Outcome 1 is to increase consumption for beverages, cultured and cheese in key channels. Through partnership with Southeast universities looking into consumer perception of dairy or supporting new product development and market expansion research, to new volume sales at food banks aligning on a shared mission to bring more milk and dairy to food banks across the region. To work alongside Dairy West, securing new dairy-centric menu items at restaurants. From cheese to fluid milk, our restaurant partners look to check off to bring trends and flavor profiles that appeal to consumers and move dairy. Shared Outcome 2 is to make sure dairy is seen as a preferred health and wellness product. Through the first 1,000 Days campaign, we're partnering with DMI, health professionals, and cooperatives to activate a national campaign at the local level. This is evident from the 40 state-level events staff engaged with in 2025 and in partnerships with local cooperatives such as Mayola. Looking ahead at 2026, we will do direct mailings to OBGYNs and pediatric nurse practitioners to have educational content in their offices, along with working with more cooperatives to engage their Southeast branded milk. Partnering with school nutrition associations and professionals is key to modernizing dairy in school meals. Reaching over 600,000 school nutrition staff in 2025, we will build on this momentum, partnering with producer organizations to fund new grants, improving the school milk experience. Lastly, we'll partner with star talent through the Milk's Got Game campaign. 2025 Milk's Got Game included 3 impressive basketball players and 7 football players, highlighting Milk's role in performance. Securing these standout players would not be possible without a strategic partnership with ESM, a leader in athlete marketing, branding, and revenue share strategies. Together, the 2025 spring campaign exploded with an astonishing 93.7 million impressions and generated over $1 million in free advertising buzz. This fall, the Dairy Alliance proudly returns with the 2025 Milk's Got Game. But this time, we're not just celebrating the athletes, we're honoring the heart behind the hustle, their moms. Ensuring the U.S. dairy industry is supported by key opinion leaders and customers as a preferred choice for healthy, sustainable food systems, our team partnered with DMI, the Nature Conservancy, and Florida dairy farmers to host the Southeast Dairy Sustainability Forum, bringing together 40 key opinion leaders from local supply chain and farmer support networks to drive meaningful progress in dairy sustainability within the Southeast. Technical resources like the Georgia Dairy Climate Smart Roadmap, developed in partnership with Nutrient and Georgia milk producers, gives farmers recommendations of conservation practices specific to their size and production style. Findings highlight barriers to adoption for dairy farmers and will be shared with Georgia NRCS Technical Committee. Lastly, our foundational work focuses on elevating farmer advocacy through grassroots programs and building a trusted, strategic checkoff board. The 2024 annual report included a newly developed scorecard that transparently reported how each strategic priority was measuring and meeting their goals. We look forward to providing the best return on investment for our farmer investors in 2026, working with strategic partners across the organization without losing sight of our foundational work streams. We don't have to, we get to.
So again, partnerships are super important for organization, and you're calling 2026 the year of partnerships because it is so important, not just for our those working in the Dairy Alliance, but also for our farmers. So At this time, I'm just going to let you ask some questions you may have. I imagine there's some questions about school milk and the what happened last week with Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act. So we're willing to take some of those. Everett.
The school milk, whole milk, is there any movement in the Department of Ag to fund it? And what can we do to help push that along?
Yes, so I know Barb mentioned it on the talk on Monday. For years we just wanted to get the legislation passed, but we knew it was going to be very important to also get some funding for that. And at National Milk's meeting in November, Secretary Rollins did say that they were going to provide funding. Well, there was a movement to provide funding. I won't say she completely agreed to it, but they are aware that it's going to cost more. I did some rough math for Michael Ferguson here in Mississippi recently on what it would cost if every kid in Mississippi drank whole milk every day for the school year, and it was going to cost an additional $3 million. So, it is a concern for us. Every penny that they use for a school meal lunch program is precious to them when it comes to nutrition there. So the schools got to be willing to, number one, do it and have that option there in the school, but also pay for it. So we're hoping we'll see some grants or maybe something from help. But we do need our producer groups like Farm Bureau and Georgia Milk Producers to lobby for that right away.
Was at a talk with Mr. McCluskey on Fairlight, and I didn't quite catch the comment, but I understood he said that Fairlight's projected to be 10% of total milk sales. Is that somewhere in the ballpark?
Yeah, so we've talked to Fairlife about coming to the Southeast, and we ran some numbers, and that I could totally see that would be true. I think, at the time, I don't want to it's not 100%, but our sales was like $6 million for Fairlife in our market, for Atlanta market. So it answers everything that those consumers are looking for right now because it's low sugar, high protein, and it's lactose free. And that's what our consumers want in the Southeast. We have staff here. We have Mary Ann Drake here. Anything to add to the school milk formulations, Mary Ann, or?
Well, I think that for the chocolate milk, really, I need a microphone. I don't need a microphone in my bag, but okay. To eliminate sugar in chocolate milk, you're going to have to do a couple of things, and they're all going to cost money. So I think it's going to come down to the same thing that we're talking about with whole milk. You're going to have to identify a non-nutritive sweetener that's going to be acceptable. Stevia would be the cheapest one, but I also know like the New York City school systems has banned stevia. So then if there's not stevia, then you have to look at some other non-nutritive like monk fruit or allulose. Those cost money. Those are more expensive than stevia. Can you come up with a very cost-effective blend? Yes. Can you make that product lactose-free? Yes. If you add the money to hydrolyze the lactose in milk, you can actually reduce the amount of the sweetener that's needed. So you can do a balance of paying for the lactose hydrolysis, and then you don't have to pay for as much non-nutritive sweetener. So I think there's probably a cost-effective blend that you can come up with that's going to deliver a lactose-free, no added sugar chocolate milk. We have the studies that have shown that kids like that, and actually young adults like that just as much as a sugar added chocolate milk. I think it's all going to come down to can you sell it to the school systems, and are they willing to pay for it?